Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Open edX conference. Let me start by thanking our hosts, Wellesley College and Ravi Shankar, for helping us host the conference on this beautiful leafy campus on a spectacular fall day. Berkeley has a direct line, Wellesley College has a direct line to the weather gods, and so I hear it's going to be in the 70s today, so it's going to be spectacular. But you are all going to be inside listening to talks, remember. So I'm really delighted to open the conference, and what I thought I'd do is start by giving you a very quick overview of edX, where are we today, a very quick view of Open edX from about 100,000 feet. And I'm sure our team will go through added levels of detail. And following that, I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about where I think education is going to be going, what's going to happen at universities, where education is going to be going in the future, and how this might create opportunities for some of your organizations as you create open learning environments and systems for universities and corporations. So very quickly, our mission hasn't changed. Over 4 years, we have not pivoted, as they say. Pivot speak is important in California. Here, we are a nonprofit. Our mission has been pretty steadfast. We have a three-part goal. One is to expand access to education throughout the world. And our open source platform and support for open source is a huge part of how we believe we will increase access. So in a moment of not thinking 4 years ago, we announced that we're going to educate 1 billion people in about 10 years. And we're counting on our Open edX partners to bite into a sizable chunk of that number. So your help is going to be crucial to getting to reaching a large part of the world. Our second part of our mission is to improve the quality of education. If at the end of the day, all we did with the platform that we are collectively developing is spew out videos and multiple choice, this is not interesting. And so creating a quality platform with high quality assessments, with some of the incredible work that you all are doing with simulations and X-blocks. But to me, the biggest sign of success is when I've completely lost track of all the innovations that are happening. And the list goes on and on. Very exciting. And innovations like this will really help improve education, both on campuses, as campuses adopt the blended model of learning. The third part of our mission is to advance research in learning. As we collect the big data of learning, doing research with that learning to understand how students learn, thereby improving learning itself. And towards that end, edX launched RDX over the summer, a research data exchange. This was for edX partners, where they could share data amongst themselves in partially de-identified form. Our hope is that over time, there can be broader sharing of data as organizations get more comfortable with de-identifying data to various degrees and sharing data and research across organizations. In the 3.5 or so years that we've been around, our impact has been pretty good. So today we are at about 5.3 million learners from every single country in the world. We have 18 million course enrollments across the courses on edX, with about 700 courses on the platform, 90 institutional partners, and just a huge number of blended courses running on campuses as well. And this does not count any of the Open edX institutions. 2.5 years ago, we launched out our software as open source, as Open edX. And our friend from IBL Studios tweeted out a comment I made at the Learning with MOOCs conference at Columbia last weekend, where I said, open sourcing the platform was probably one of the best decisions we ever made. And I stand by that. It's just a wonderful decision. There are trade-offs, as you might imagine. We are a small organization, nonprofit, about 130, 140 people, and supporting an initiative that takes resources and effort. And so we have a team within edX that focuses on open edX, and we are committed to making that successful and thriving. And we really hope that together we will accomplish just the colossal goals that we have set for ourselves. As you can see here, the adoption of open edX has been growing worldwide. Here are just some sample sites that were some of the very earliest sites that came up using open edX. So for example, you will see here FUN, which is the France Université Numérique. Anyone here from FUN? There you go, welcome, welcome. One of the earliest sites using open edX. Shuetang X from China. This is a Chinese national platform, also one of the very early sites. Stanford launched lagunita.stanford.edu, again a very early site. And a number of other sites, McKinsey Academy, for example, Durub from Saudi Arabia, Edrak from Jordan. And today, the numbers are even more staggering. But before I talk about that, a particularly interesting site was one that went up 2 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, on September 14th. This is called openedu.ru. This is the Russian national platform. And so this was launched by Livanov, the Minister of Education of Russia, as an open national platform for Russian universities. And they already had close to 50 courses in Russian on that site. There's also another MOOC that came up from an organization called Lectorium.tv that talks about, it's a MOOC intended for the Russian community of open edX users. Now again, I just point this out just as an example. I travel, in my role at edX, I travel all the world looking and talking to various companies and organizations. And there, you hear about just incredible adoptions of open edX all over. And this is one company in Russia, for example, that has launched a MOOC to train people on how to use the open edX platform. So growth has been accelerating, as I said. So this chart here shows you, as a function of time, the number of adoptions of open edX, the number of sites of open edX around the world, and also number of courses on open edX around the world. And so you can notice that it's about over 1,800 courses. So if you count, so this says that there's more than twice as many courses on open edX sites as there are on edX itself. And together it's over 2,500 courses. This is absolutely fantastic. There's 146 sites in a large number of languages all over the world, and you can see how the chart continues to increase. And it's really through your efforts that this is happening. Now it turns out that this is the sites we know about. These are the number of courses we know about. My team tells me that there are likely an order of magnitude more courses on sites that we do not know about. And at the end of the presentation, I'll show you a couple of pointers. We are looking for your help for us to be able to promote you. So I'll suggest a couple of ideas where you can give us information so we can talk about your sites. As we go and talk around the world, I'd love to put up and advertise your sites and talk about the work that you are doing, but you have to let us know so we can promote you. So this has been, so you might think that we did this out of the goodness of our hearts. Well, that's true. We did open source it because we felt it was the right thing to do. But that said, we have been absolutely astounded as to what the whole community is getting back from you at the same time. And the number of features on the platform that have come largely in whole or in part from the edX community is utterly mind-boggling. And this is, June of 2013 when we open sourced, to today we are barely 2.5 years into it, and the velocity and the work that you've done is amazing during this time. So just as some examples of some of the features contributed by Open edX team members include, for example, from Stanford, one of the more recent ones was integration of OLI, and this is the Open Learning Initiative work that Candace Still and Ross Strader have been doing, integration of that technology into edX. I won't read through all of it. From Harvard, one of the recent ones, integration into campus platforms. And so this is an integration of LTI, both as where edX can read LTI, and also where edX can serve as a LTI tool provider, so that if you have Canvas or Blackboard or other LTI platforms on campus, you can play some content within edX and you can show that to campus students. Still a lot more work to do into turning this into a solid production-worthy, scalable deployment, but a lot of this came from, as I recall, the work that John Zornick from University of Queensland did. Harvard was part of it. So this was really some amazing collaboration, in two very distant parts of the globe. So I'm really excited and proud of the amount of work that has gone on in improving the edX platform. And keep up the fantastic work. And I know there's so much more that we can do, and I'll tell you some of my dreams. So this is not, I'm not committing to doing this tomorrow. There's so much to do. But I'll tell you some of my dreams here. One of my dreams is, I've heard there's at least 50 to 100 spectacular X blocks just sitting there waiting to be adopted. And so I can just imagine having a shared repository sometime in the future where you have all the X blocks, sort of like a library, where people can just use them. Just imagine if there's some e-commerce capability where X blocks could be, you could use them, you click, you pay $1 or whatever, some cool e-commerce capability, so that the ecosystem that you're part of could contribute and enable various people to use your X blocks within their platform, and for there to be some e-commerce to grease the way of adoptions and also help you sustain yourselves. So lots of cool things we can do. So the next part of this presentation, I'd just like to dream a little bit and think about with a technology like this, as we bring technology into learning, how might this change education? And if whether I'm a campus university or a high school, or whether I'm a platform provider, how might we think of the future of education, and where might the world go? Now again, this is not a prediction. Think of this more as a dream. And then ask a bunch of provocative questions. And as you think about those questions yourself, you'll wonder, why is that so? So for example, the key word I'll keep using is bundling. So today, universities are bundled into 4 years. So when you're 18, you're supposed to finish high school, apply to university, go to a campus, that's starting at the age of 18, and spend 4 years on campus. So you would ask yourselves the question, why 18? Why 4 years on campus? As an example, when I was an undergraduate in the late 70s at IIT Madras in India, it was 5 years. We spent 5 years on campus. And I remember there was talk of making it 4 years. And there was a huge debate that said, IITs are going to go down the toilet if you did this. This is terrible. And guess what? Today it's 4 years. And IITs are still fine. So change can happen. And the doomsayers, doom may not come. It may be okay. And so you wonder, why 4 years? Why at the age of 18? So why are we bundling time into that, in terms of education, into the period from whatever, from birth to 22 or 23? And why are we bundling education there, particularly higher ed? Why are we bundling it at the age of 18 into 4 years? And we are bundling time in that respect. So it's interesting to dream about how might things change. Why bundle things? The whole world has changed. Everything changes every few years today. And I want to ask you this, but I love asking at conferences, what fraction of what you learned as an undergraduate are you using in your daily job today? And by and large, the fraction that you use may not be 100%. It's usually a much smaller number. And so the world keeps changing, and you have to keep learning. So as an example, I learned to program using Fortran in the late 70s using punch cards. And I remember by the time my undergraduate thesis came around, I was using a Prime computer, and it was unbelievable. The fact that I could sit down at a workstation and not have to get on my bike and carry a deck of cards back and forth was just absolutely spectacular. This was like moving to a microwave oven when previously I had to heat my coffee using a charcoal grill or something like that. I mean, this was huge. And so progress has been happening every 5-10 years in huge ways. And so, in this day and age, learning once and then living the rest of your life, even as lifespans get longer, this doesn't make any sense. And so we need to a different model of learning, perhaps. And so one thing that I've talked about and blogged about is called continuous learning or lifelong learning. The idea is, imagine if you could come to campus having completed roughly 1 year of your education already. So imagine when you're in high school or wherever else, you go online and you learn, do the basic subjects and learn for a year. Then you go to campus for 2 years to get the campus experience. I don't know, whether it's 3 years or 2 years or 1 year, some amount of time. And then following that, you get a job and you go into industry and you work. And while you work, you keep learning for the rest of your life. And you perhaps get a subscription back to your university, or you get a subscription to a consortium of university, and you pick and choose a la carte. If your job demands that you learn about project management, heck, you take the project management course from Adelaide online. Or if you want to learn about programming, you take a programming course. It doesn't matter. You pick and choose as your job demands, and you become a continuous learner for the rest of your life. So your 4 years becomes one where the first year happens earlier, and the last year happens throughout life, and this might unbundle time. So that's one example. Second one is we also bundle content in universities. So today when you go to a university, virtually everything comes from that university. So the lectures come from the professor at the university. The professor might record some videos, they come from that university. All the assessment comes from that professor and his or her TAs at the university. Tutoring comes from the university. Everything happens at the university. And very often the textbook is also written by the professor or one of the folks from the university. And so even the content is completely bundled. It's almost like a one-stop shop where you go in. And reminds me a lot of the AT&T, the pink AT&T phone that used to sit around in the early 80s or late 70s, where you bought everything from AT&T. They sent you a phone. You dialed 411, an AT&T operator came on. You did long distance. You got AT&T. You had a problem with your service. You called AT&T. Everything was AT&T. It's all bundled. But where's the world today? About 30 years later, it's all unbundled. You buy your phones from, Apple or Samsung or one of the other phone providers. You get service from Sprint or Verizon or somebody else. You get your 411 from yet somebody else. You get your long-distance services and international services. You can subscribe to different services. The whole thing is unbundled. And what that did was dramatically ratchet up quality and also dramatically give you a lot of choice and really fostered incredibly fast innovation. And so one thing to think about is, can we imagine unbundling content? So just imagine, if I could go to a campus and the professor might say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to lecture. I'm going to point you to some online resources, open education resources or other online resources. You get the content, your video content from there. Yeah, I really love creating assessments, so I'm going to create fantastic problem sets and give those to you so you can give you formative assessments and help you learn. You might say, we don't have the resources at our university. We don't have graduate students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a tutoring service and an external tutoring service where it doesn't matter what time it is, you click a button and you're connected to a tutor somewhere in the world. So you can imagine unbundling some of these services and improving student engagement and possibly reducing costs at university as well. Why should you have to do everything? Why should a university have to offer every single kind of course? In the languages department, let's say I don't have a Latin teacher. How the heck do I offer Latin? Just imagine if I could unbundle content and say, look, we don't have a Latin course. We have students who want to take Latin. Heck, I can point to this resource online and you can take a Latin course and I'll give you credit for it locally. So that's the concept of unbundling content. And technology and the platform that all of us are engaged in can help make this happen. And it's interesting to dream whether the future of university is going to be unbundled. Just like in '82, if someone had said this to AT&T, they would have said, no way people are going to be able to do this. It's all going to be one package, it's us. It didn't take more than 10 years for the whole thing to get unbundled, and things are moving in that direction already. So I'll give you a couple of examples. So one is in terms of unbundling time. So we launched the Global Freshman Academy in partnership with Arizona State University. So the idea here is that any student anywhere in the world, there's no admissions requirements, can take 1 year's worth of general education courses on edX from Arizona State University. You can take the course for free, or you can pay $45 and sign up for a verified certificate. If you do, you get a proctored exam, and if you pass the course with the proctored exam, you get a verified certificate for $45 for the course. And if that's all you want, you're done, you have a certificate, you can move on. However, if you want campus credit, you can then pay $600 and open up a transcript at ASU and get campus credit. And $600 is about half in-state tuition. So here's a way that students can now take 1 whole year's worth of general education online at very low cost and get campus credit at ASU. And if you want to transfer that credit somewhere else, other universities that accept ASU credit, you could. It's the same ASU transcript that a campus student at ASU would open. And so this is a step in the direction of unbundling time. And what is shocking is that statistics show that the number of students in the US who do go to college at the age of 18 and then complete a 4-year program is only about 25%. Only 1 in 4 students is this model of the student that we think about, 18 and for 4 years. A majority of students are more of the continuing learners that go in and out of college or simply don't go to college and maybe come back in later. And some of these unbundling of time concepts can enable more of that to happen. And certainly this has been recognized as a watershed moment, and quite a few of the press folks have thought about this as heralding a possible big change in how we might work at universities. Another announcement on this came out on Wednesday of this week from MIT. MIT launched the MicroMasters. MIT launched the MicroMasters credential, where the idea is that with supply chain, in supply chain management, you can take about 3 or 4 or 5 courses, and if you pass those courses, you take a proctored exam, and you get a MicroMasters credential from MIT. And then, if you want to, you can apply to MIT, and your performance in this will count towards admission into MIT. You can come to campus and complete the 2nd semester on campus, and then earn a master's degree. So with a half semester's worth of work, completely 100% online, no admissions, no requirements in terms of admissions. You just take it. If you can cut it, you get a MicroMasters, and that may be enough for you. Or if you want to continue for a master's, you apply for campus, and then you get a master's degree on campus. So here's another example of how we can unbundle time. And so I think it's really interesting to see how we might evolve the university. And if you want to read more about this concept of unbundling, you might want to read a blog post that I wrote about 2 years ago now. And if you Google Huffington Post and unbundled, you can find this blog post that talks about these concepts and how we may be able to apply them. And finally, before we go into a few questions, let me suggest that if you have any questions, we have about 5 minutes for questions. We don't have mics going around the hall, so if you have any questions, if you want to come on up to the front, and I can yell out the question, I can repeat the question if you have any, and then answer and take any questions. But one of the things, as I promised earlier, is we would love to hear about your site. We just don't know what, since you can download the software and run with your site, we just don't know you have it. So I encourage you to tell us about yourselves, tell us about your site, how many students do you have, how many courses, how many languages, where are you, who are you? Give us a screenshot of your site so we can help promote you and spread the word. So as a first step, I encourage you to go take the survey and fill out the survey and let us know about yourselves. And also soon, on the Open edX portal, open.edx.org, Joel tells me that soon there will be a button where you can click on the button, and that will also help you give us the information about your site. We also encourage you to spread the word on your site. We'd love you to say "Powered by Open edX" at the bottom of your site as well. That will also be very helpful to us and to the movement that we are all involved in together. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions from you if there are any. Given we have no mics, it would be helpful if you have questions to come up to the front and I can repeat the question. Maybe not. Well, thank you all and have a good conference. Thank you.